welcome to another episode, a surprise episode, especially for me, of the Comics Brew and Chew podcast, where today we'll be talking about a book I've said we're going to do for a while. Didn't realize we were doing it yet. Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross, coming out of DC. It is a formerly Elseworlds title, now a Black Label title, but I don't have to worry about that because every copy I own says Elseworlds somewhere.
So is that a thing that they're doing, is just retrofitting
Yes.
a bunch of stuff into Black Label?
Because Black Label failed on takeoff because they're like, we're going to do Batman Damned as the first book. Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo. They do super realistic, super gritty. It's dark. We'll drop it. Issue 1, they showed Batman's dick.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was like
Instantly backlash. They pulled books out of circulation. They canceled other books. Immediately, the digital copy was censored. They just put a black bar over his bat schlong. And
aren't now like the copies that are uncensored selling for a decent amount?
you can buy them for probably $200 a piece. There were shops selling them. They market at like $5 to $6 for the shelf because it's a thicker paper stock cover.
Yeah.
It's a bigger published edition. They were selling this $5 to $6 book for $80 for the remaining copies that they had on the shelf
For Bat Dick.
for Bat Dick. If you want Bat Dick, just read Nightwing.
Or go watch Gone Girl.
Hey!
But we're not. But yeah, so they started just throwing other books into Black Label, like a book we've read before, Batman White Knight, was put into Black Label immediately after it was put out in trade paperback. It wasn't when it was coming out month to month. Now it is because they're like, hey, we need titles. Someone was complaining online that everything for Black Label is all Batman, except for the one Superman book being written by Frank Miller, which somehow makes it a Batman book because Frank Miller also wrote Batman. Frank Miller also wrote Daredevil, so I guess it's also a Daredevil book. But, yeah, so then they started taking books like Kingdom Come, All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison, a bunch of books like that, like older, more prominent titles, and putting it into the Black Label in order to, like, say that there's a backlog of books, while they also only have, like, 2 books coming out regularly, and Batman Damned ended, like, with no fanfare because there was less Bat Dick in issues 2 and 3.
So DC starts up a new label and has
Yeah.
all kinds of trouble, and then they kill off their super prominent Vertigo label.
Yeah.
Good job, DC.
And they bring back the Young Animal label, which cannibalized Vertigo, because they took Constantine and Swamp Thing out of Vertigo, put them into the main storyline, and then now they don't have books in the Rebirth series. They only appear in other people's books. They took Doom Patrol, Shade the Changing Girl, all these other books, and put them into Young Animal. That way Gerard Way, lead singer of My Chemical Romance, and the guy that wrote Umbrella Academy, can have his own imprint for DC. That way they get like all the emo kids reading comics now. And then Sandman came out for the 20th anniversary, and they gave all tie-in books that Neil Gaiman oversaw, and that's kind of in Vertigo, but kind of also just like a Sandman publishing, which is now going to be Black
they
Label.
also wrote Constantine into that?
No.
Sandman, that little Sandman project they have going on, or no?
No.
No?
They have Lucifer, because Lucifer was a spin-off book from Sandman, Books of Magic, The Dreaming, which I'm reading because The Dreaming is the most directly Sandman book they have, and then House of Whispers, which was an old book coming out of DC Vertigo.
Okay.
All
So-
of that is not the book that
We're talking about.
John and I read, Amanda is currently reading, and Tom didn't even bring the copy I lent him.
Bye, guys, I'm going home.
Which is funny because I'm currently holding the paperback original cover of Kingdom Come, which is a cool wraparound cover. Amanda has my 20th anniversary deluxe edition, which has another wraparound cover, another scene out of the book. I want to get the newer one, which is a scene out of the book. It's another paperback. It's a newer copy. But the book volume I have that I lent John was $1, and I got it out of our local comic book shop. Perfect condition. The one I lent Tom I got for $5 off eBay, and it looks like shit when it came in the mail. And then the copy I lent Amanda is the one like I kept on a shelf that I forgot where I put it. That way it would stay safe. Like that's how I was valuing
But
it.
when are you buying the Black Label one?
That's the one I was looking at the other day, and I might pick it up because I love the cover. It's one of my favorite panels from the book. I picked that one up because that one was like indicative of my favorite version of Green Lantern, which is this version of Green Lantern,
Okay.
because of the aesthetic he takes on being like the Emerald Knight.
Green Lantern is something I absolutely want to start reading. I just can't get a starting point.
He's very cool in this book.
Is he?
He
Okay,
is.
I'm gonna
So
read
this
this.
is
For how little he
so
does.
there's nothing that ties in with this book whatsoever. Because I honestly,
Until after it comes out.
I would read a lot more of this universe.
No, you
to
would
be
not,
honest.
because they tied it into the main universe, and I heard it's atrocious.
I don't know.
Because
Side thing, isn't this the version of Superman that they're bringing to the big CW crossover?
yes, this is supposedly the Crisis on Infinite Earth Superman. This came
Which
out in the
Brandon Routh is
90s.
gonna play.
Crisis came out in the 80s, so now they're using a lot more
Wait,
characters.
isn't Brandon Routh already the Atom? How's he gonna fit into that?
Well, it's going to be an identity crisis,
Are
John.
they gonna call that out? They're gonna be like,
They
Well,
might.
didn't they do that? I don't
Identity
watch
Crisis
the
on
C-
Infinite Earths.
I don't do.
Well, there's another DC book called Identity Crisis.
Oh, okay.
Didn't they do the same thing with Flash's dad, and then also use him as the Flash?
Yeah. And he
Oh,
shows
yeah,
up at
that's
one
right.
point as a Flash, I think.
Well,
I
that
don't know.
didn't he play the Flash
Yeah,
in
in
the
the
90s?
90s. And Brandon Routh was Superman.
Yeah.
In Superman Returns.
And I think they have Mark
I think
Hamill
that
show,
that was the like first DC superhero movie I ever saw.
and
He
Mark Hamill's in
was-
both as the Trickster
Yeah.
in the current Flash TV show, and he was the Trickster in the original before or around the same time he voiced the Joker.
But with Kevin Conroy coming in as Batman, does that mean that he's also the Joker in this universe?
We don't know because supposedly Kevin Conroy's Batman is going to be old Bruce Wayne from Batman Beyond.
I watched so much Batman. Beyond
Everybody
as a kid.
did.
It's a good show.
God,
I
it
loved
was
it.
so good.
It's one of my favorite DC
That might
animated
have been-
movies.
Static Shock was my favorite.
That might have been like what inevitably got me into comic books with Batman Beyond. I remember watching Batman Beyond and Static Shock.
Static Shock
Oh, yeah.
was my favorite. But
And
I watched a lot of Teen Titans, a lot of Justice
Yeah,
League and
Teen-
Unlimited,
Well, it was.
Batman the Animated Series.
I think it was a DC series, and it wasn't Young Justice. It wasn't Teen Titans, but they were a team of superhero kids. There was Saturn Girl, right?
Oh,
She can-
the Legion of Superheroes.
that one.
Superman
I
and the
loved-
Legion of Superheroes.
I
don't
loved
remember
that
that
so
one.
much.
Because-
I loved it.
It was the Legion of Superheroes is a team from like the 31st century. Like it was this idea that Superman learns how to be Superman when he was a kid
Yep.
because he is taken by these kids from the future, brought to the future and trained to be Superman because they all idolize Superman as like the progenitor of superheroes. So they kind of like train him how to be Superman, then put him back in the past. He grows up to become Superman and uses those ideals and then inspires those who inspire him.
Interesting.
It's kind of like when Carol Danvers gave birth to the guy that ends up impregnating her, but not really.
That's
Oh yeah, that was the thing
What?
that happened.
So
yeah.
there's a storyline where Carol Danvers is impregnated by a man, and then she gives birth, and it's actually the guy that impregnated her. He's like a time traveler, and he went back in time and fucked Carol Danvers into making himself.
That's I don't like that.
No, nobody does. That's why we're going to talk about this other dark and grim book, Kingdom
also
Come.
featuring Captain Marvel.
Also, yeah, prominently featuring Captain Marvel before they decided they were going to sell the name to Marvel entirely and keep him as Shazam. Which you remember when we were going to do this book? When Shazam came out.
Did you end up?
I
seeing
finally
Shazam?
watched it
Oh, you
last
did?
week.
Oh yeah, did you, what
Give
you
us a
think?
little rundown. What you think of it?
I thought it was good, but I thought like there were parts of it that like I didn't really meld with. But like overall, I thought it was
Flossy.
cool. No, not even that. Like it was definitely very light in tone, which I'm not saying is wrong in the DC universe.
Yeah.
It just felt a little like forced sometimes. But then I was listening to a review of it, and it is definitely more of a family and kid friendly movie.
Mm.
So I'm like maybe a lot of that was just targeting a younger demographic.
I mean,
But
to get off track with Kingdom Come,
we've never even been on track.
I was very sure it is the best DC movie, and I'll fight anyone on that. I know Tom's a big
I'm a
proponent for
big
Aquaman,
Aquaman boy, but
but
I loved Shazam as well.
Aquaman was so fucking boring. It
I
was
Oh,
so.
Aquaman.
it was-
I'm on the Shazam side.
So
Aquaman was like, "Hey, you remember that plot? Neither do we. Here we
My,
go off
my,
the rails."
I walked into
Oh,
my living room the other
Aquaman.
night. My dad was watching Aquaman. I took my headphones off, looked at him, and went, just as a heads up, this movie sucks, and walked out of the
Aquaman
room.
is so good. Nope, I will fight all of you. Aquaman is great.
Tom-
I'll lose,
Shazam
but
is
Aquaman is great.
excellent.
Shazam is great. Shazam and Aquaman.
Zach
both.
Levi playing old Billy Batson / Shazam, fantastic. But like there were parts like when Savannah goes into the boardroom and releases the 7 deadly sins, and like they throw his brother out the window. I was like, oh, this movie's getting like darker and more serious. And then like you never reach that again. Like there's a
Fred.
horror scene.
Fred, the Crocodile Man.
Those are actually long standing
Yep.
in the universe.
I know.
I found that out.
excited me so much.
That's
but-
such a weird movie, and I honestly am very excited for the sequel.
I hope it gets it. I
Even
really
though
hope it
there's
does.
going to be like a worm thing. Is the
I know that dude. That
Oh,
excites me the most.
I found out about that
credit
the
scene
other
was
day.
great.
Wait, was there post-credit scenes in that movie?
Yeah, it was the evil worm thing.
And then wasn't the other one them looking at the seventh chair and being like, "Wonder who that belongs to?" Or was that cut? I think it was a cut.
Yeah,
I think
no,
it was a
that
deleted
wasn't
scene.
it. But it was what's the worm? What the worm's name?
Yeah.
Sinister or something. Mr. Sinister.
No, that's somebody else. That's
Sinister Swarm.
no,
It
Mr.
is-
Sinister. I think is an X-Men villain. But I saw some.
Mr. Mind.
Yes.
Mr. Mind. That was so
like
cool.
the Pokemon.
Detective Pikachu crossover with Shazam.
Clearly, given my my love of Aquaman and all of its weird sea monsters and Mr. Mind, you can tell what my favorite stuff in DC is all the
Yeah.
weird creature shit.
But I liked Mark Strong as Savannah. I liked the fact they did the Shazamly, or as I heard him, the Fazamly.
The
I also-
Fazamly.
I've heard
The
of
Shazamly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were cool. There is a deleted scene where, at the end, they're all sitting on the thrones in
Yeah.
the Shazam cave, and there's like the seventh
Rock of
empty
Eternity.
chair, and they're like, I wonder who that belongs to, and they're like, well, whoever it is, we're gonna love them. And I'm like,
It's probably Black Adam.
it's gonna be The Rock.
Oh yeah. The Rock on Eternity.
But
Wow.
to get back to Kingdom Come,
But I was
To get
my,
on to Kingdom Come.
I was gonna say the one thing about Shazam that I didn't really like was they built up Mary Marvel throughout the entire movie, and then she shows up in the final fight and she literally fights the tentacle monster the whole time and does nothing.
yeah,
And I'm like, she is like you got Shazam and then you got Mary. Like she is right after
she's
him.
in this book too.
She is in this book.
Very briefly, there's a
lot of-
section at the end where they they label all the heroes you
Yeah.
see and all the chapter interludes, and I actually spent a good amount of time reading it.
This is, but I'm on like one of the last pages in the old copy that I have. This is the new cover.
When all the Justice League are
Yeah.
coming down from the heavens, which
Is so like that is such a good cover.
see, I gotta say I didn't think I'd like this book that much for its super religious kind
Overtones?
of overtones, but
I
I
mean,
feel
with a
like
name like Kingdom Come?
yeah, I mean it was done very
Yeah.
well. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I didn't feel like it was had an agenda. At least the religious one, at least.
It's weird because it talks about religion in like the monotheistic sense with like Norman McRae being a preacher and the Spectre being the agent of God,
Yeah.
but it deals with like a polytheistic society that views superheroes as gods, which is I actually have a book called Our Gods Wear Spandex by Grant Morrison, and I have another one, Gods and Superheroes, and it talks about how the Justice League is the modern day interpretation of the Greco-Roman Olympic pantheon.
Well, I mean, at this point, there's going to be people running around preaching Zack Snyder from now till the end of time.
release the Snyder
Are we gonna? So we're releasing the Snyder Cut now, right?
That'll be like the New Testament.
Yeah.
When eventually they get it out.
I was gonna make another joke, but it would kind of be in bad taste, not really like in the way of me saying it, but people can construe it as such. So I will make it after the recording stops. And before we get too much further, snacks today: Oreos, Reese's Pieces. We got Shipyard Melon because it's almost out of season, and I'm drinking a Bud Light because they had them in the fridge.
I had coffee.
John has coffee, and these two can help themselves to whatever.
We can pass them. So, Kingdom Come is
Before Punk Rock Jesus, possibly my favorite comic of all time.
I didn't think I was gonna like it because we did
Marvels.
Marvels.
Yep.
And is it the same writer?
No, Marvel's
It's the same artist, right?
Same artist.
Alex Ross. Right?
Alex Ross did Marvels before Kingdom Come. Kurt Busiek wrote Marvels. Mark Waid, who was an old editor at DC, wrote Kingdom Come.
So early on, this book reminded me a lot of Marvels, and I did not like Marvels because it was like heavy narration. But the narration in this is like, as opposed to Knights, where it'd be like whole paragraphs of like reading the narration and reading or looking at what's going on.
Yeah.
This is like very broken up, and it's not so much just one character narrating.
Yeah.
It's whatever Norman
McRae.
McRae talking to the Spectre about like what is about to happen. He had his one of his friends has visions of the end of the world, dies, gives Norman the book, and then Norman starts to see these visions. And as the events unfold, he realizes that these events are happening and that the way he's seeing them are them being interpreted by superheroes.
What's the first big vision he has? It's like a bat fighting an eagle. And everybody's like, oh, I've read Dark Knight before. Dark Knight Returns. I know what happens.
Yeah. But then it's also like So in this universe, Superman, the big members of the
I was gonna
Justice,
say this book is set ambiguously in the future.
yeah. So the biggest members of the Justice League, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, they've all kind of retired, and since like the first generation of superheroes is retired, and the second generation are still around, there's now like this third and fourth generation of superhumans that are like all the villains are eliminated. There's no villains. Like some guy he destroyed Arkham, killed all the Batman villains. He destroyed Bell-Rev, killed all the supervillains for more or less are gone. There's just anti-heroes and heroes and
Reformed villains that go into seclusion.
yeah. And so when there's nothing for them to do in terms of fighting villains, they just start fighting amongst themselves, and it's never really like shown what they're fighting over. They're just fighting because it's human nature.
Which is funny because this book is very much a commentary on comics, especially at the time in the 1990s, because you had the rise of Image and then this book comes out. So you got all these hyper-violent superheroes like Spawn and Savage Dragon and like anybody else those jackasses drew. And then you get into the future where all it is heroes fighting one another, and everything post-Civil War in Marvel, like 10 years after this book comes out, is just superheroes mostly fighting superheroes for the most part. You got a Civil War 2. You got Avengers versus X-Men, which I just gave Amanda. You have X-Men versus Inhumans, which I also just gave Amanda.
You have Eternals versus Inhumans.
Inhumans versus like Eternals versus like Relevancy.
Damage Control versus Agents of Mayhem or whatever.
But so you have all these characters, and McCrae's big question is, where did the superheroes that I idolized as a child go to? And you get this very like a Christmas story type story where the ghost of whatever the fuck the Spectre represents takes McCrae around the universe and shows him where all these characters are going to. And the first person you visit is Superman.
Who's farming?
Who's farming? As he has. I was going to say, which is like normal. You would expect Superman, farm boy, go back to his farm. Only downside is he's living in Kansas. Nothing wrong with Kansas, except the entire thing's irradiated because of a fight between a couple of superheroes and villains.
Where someone called the Parasite fights the Atom? No.
Absorb the Atom's powers, I believe.
No, he like kills the Atom somehow, and because he literally splits the Atom in half, and then radiation kills like most of Kansas.
Yeah.
It essentially wipes out America's breadbasket.
Yeah.
A lot of the wheat and agricultural stuff happens.
And because he's Superman, he can live there without being phased.
Yeah.
Superman at this point has been replaced.
Is he there though? He's in this weird dome where like.
I think they quarantine off Kansas.
Yeah.
And he lives in this dome.
Because he has animals and stuff, and he's like farming and.
He lives in Chernobyl.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he has been replaced by a character named Magog, who. Sorry, I have to like remember how to pronounce his name. Because there's Mangog in
Magog. It's Magog.
Yeah, but there's Mangog in Marvel. He's a Thor villain, and then there's Magog in DC, who is this made-up character. Who is this like? I keep thinking of an episode of back issues from Comic Pop where I first kind of found out about this. They refer to him in that as a golden idol, which I think is really appropriate. He takes over the place of the gods that you remembered. And is this new and shiny god that's supposed to entice you?
Yeah, he's very like he kind of reminds me of like almost like Ares mixed with like kind of tech because he has this laser spear gun and he's the whole reason Superman goes into retirement, right?
The Joker goes on a killing spree, and I believe he kills Lois Lane.
Yeah, he goes to Metropolis because he can't do much in Gotham anymore.
So he kills Lois Lane, and Superman catches him, and before he can bring Joker to trial, Magog appears and murders the Joker in cold blood. They take Magog to trial, and the jury acquits him. And then he challenges Superman to a fight. And Superman, instead of... Magog's all like, do you bleed? And Superman's like maybe, and just screws off. Like, and then...
He forfeits the fight.
Yeah.
Just goes into retirement.
And so you catch up with Superman in retirement, ignoring all the world's problems until Wonder Woman shows up, and she's like, Clark, get your shit together. The world needs you. So then Clark comes out of retirement and shows up where this like bus full of people is about to fall off a bridge during a superhero villain fight.
Well, superhero fight.
Yeah.
Because there are no villains technically.
Yeah, there's just kind of okay heroes and like really not okay heroes.
Yeah.
And he shows up and saves a bus full of like kids that's about to fall off a bridge, and everybody's like, "Oh, sweet, Superman's back." And then McCrae gets another vision of the end of the world, and he goes, "Oh no, this is awful."
This is what causes it, and it's cool because like after this, Superman and Wonder Woman, they start this.
They
whole,
get the
like,
band back together.
They go and they visit. There's one part in the book where they like explain where most of them have been.
It's a mix between Wonder Woman and the Spectre,
Yeah.
taking turns narrating, explaining where different characters are. So
Don't
like,
forget that she has been disowned from
yeah,
Yeah, she's no longer.
she's Princess of Themyscira.
Yeah, she's no longer that.
She can't go back to her home island,
Yeah, but like they explain
which
that.
I don't think they ever exclusively say it. I think Batman implies it. at one
No,
point.
no, she says it.
Oh, does
tells
she?
Superman.
Oh, okay.
But then, so they explain like the Flash in this universe is real. He's almost this like ethereal.
He's moving so fast.
You never see the Flash. You see like a red blur, or like and even people like say like the page here. It's like he's everywhere at once, a guardian angel who rights the most harmless of wrongs with lightning speed, and it's like kind of cool because it's like it takes the Flash from being this like kind of goofy.
Hey, I'm quick.
Somewhat, yeah. So this thing where it's just like, if you're like, you're about to slip and fall, all of a sudden you're just righted, and it's like he's almost like a god almost, or like some kind of
That's the thing. They
speed force.
Waid takes all the usual tropes of these superheroes and then emphasizes it further. So the Flash is always everywhere at once, solving all the problems he can in the city he protects.
He's honestly super powerful in this
Yeah.
book too, because he does something later on where you're like,
Whoa.
yeah, like how I didn't realize he was that powerful.
To jump to my favorite iteration of Green Lantern, which we touched on earlier,
Oh my god,
He-
so cool.
he exiles himself from humanity but pretends to do it as like an altruistic type thing. He builds a floating space station like their old watchtower, or the watchtower from the cartoons, and he sits up at the edge of the atmosphere watching space for alien invaders, and he sits on like an iron throne almost, and he's got this suit of armor that he made for himself that looks like medieval armor. He's got a sword, and he just sits up there in exile, but he says it's to watch for alien threats, and none ever show up.
And they say like in the back of the book when they explain all the heroes, they explain that he fused himself with his lantern,
Yeah,
making him like incredibly powerful.
Which
It's
is
just, like him just sitting there on his throne, just like
Yeah.
waiting. It's a very cool
Which-
image.
and then you like realize that he's doing it so he doesn't have to deal with all the shit on Earth.
And then like Hawkman is like,
An Egyptian god again, or
Yeah.
whatever.
and it's
Um,
like he claimed the Pacific Northwest as his area. Some
Oh, yeah.
call him a savior, others an environmental terrorist. He is feared and justly by those who would derive the beasts and birds of their sanctuary. So like the picture they show is like a bunch like a logging crew like
Yeah.
tearing down the forest, and he's just above them like flying.
Because I keep getting
Terrifying.
there's another picture Alex Ross drew of Hawkman, but it's of like the old Egyptian version of him
Well, that's
too.
what this is. He has a hawk head and
Yeah.
an Egyptian thing.
He does it again on another promotional piece too.
Yeah.
But and then everybody's favorite character, they're like, where is he? Especially Amanda. I know she was waiting for him the whole book.
Oh yeah.
Where's Batman? He's in Gotham, the only city in the world that has no crime, because he's made it an authoritarian dictatorship with bat robots.
Of course he did.
Bat Knights.
Bat
They're
Knights.
so cool.
Be-
It's almost like if the '90s Batmobile was a Transformer.
Yeah.
That's what it looks
And-
like.
But he's doing it because he can't go out and fight crime anymore. Because they do Nightfall in this universe where Bane shows up and breaks his back, but they also burn down Wayne Mansion and reveal that he's Batman.
Him and Two-Face. You mentioned
Yeah,
specifically
Two-Face.
Bane and Two-Face.
And like now he's stuck in this like half James Rhodes mech suit, half neck brace type thing. To move around.
I know Tom didn't get to read this, so I'm going to show Tom something here, and I want
Okay.
let me see if I can find it. It's so he's in this like he said, James Rhodes-esque.
Yep.
Mech brace.
War Machine.
Yeah, it's like it's on his arms, it's on his legs. I'm trying to find a good picture of it.
I go to the front of the book.
The front of the book, you think so?
Probably when he first gets introduced.
Oh, yep, there it is. Yeah, Tom, look at the thing around his neck and tell me what it reminds you of.
Let me see.
The lower chin, upper neck area. What is that? I know you'd probably recognize it as easy as I did.
Oh god.
It looks.
It looks like the.
It is the bottom half of Darth Vader's helmet.
Yeah.
I recognized it too.
I was like, that's just Darth Vader's helmet. And he almost like has like there's another part where like at the end of the book he's like standing up and he has like the same little like belt and chest thing as
Okay.
Darth Vader. Like,
That's cool.
how do you get
There's
a,
also another thing he does that's very Darth Vader.
what's that?
The entire black suit of armor.
Oh yeah, yeah. But he like the thing is that he has a white version of that too at some points.
The White Knight.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, he's like Darth Bane apparently, or no, Darth Bruce.
Darth
yeah,
Wayne.
right here. Look, Tom. He's got Darth Vader's like
Yup.
chest belt
Oh
buckle.
god, yeah, for sure.
But
It's so weird. But I mean, I feel like I know I saw the gun from Blade Runner at one point. Someone had that, and I was like, I know that.
that was also in
That was also in
Punk Rock Jesus.
Punk Rock Jesus.
Yes, I remembered in Punk Rock Jesus very well because I stopped and like, that's my boy Deckard's gun.
Yeah, you guys sent that in the chat. You were like, it's a gun from Blade Runner, and John's like, there's a Halo gun too.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it is. There's the gun. It's on the bottom of this panel here. It looks like it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the gun from Blade Runner.
No, it definitely looks similar. I don't think it's as identical as
Yeah.
the Punk Rock Jesus one
There's
was,
also
but
there's also a frame at the beginning of this book where they're fighting a giant robot that looks like that looks like a giant robot in the Gundam series. I sent the picture to Fred and I'm like, I'm calling the police on this book. They're stealing ideas.
But
So Superman gets the crew
then
together.
into chapter 2, which is them getting the crew together.
Yeah.
Which this panel. Oh, this is the other take on the panel. The first time the Justice League shows up when there's a fight at the Statue of Liberty, when
Oh, I like that scene.
when the super nationalist supremacist is there, and he's like,
super fascist.
yeah, the super fascists show up, and there's like the red, white, and blue Power Ranger, and they're like fucking fighting everybody.
The what's his name? Americommando. I think that's his name, and he's just like, get out of here, you immigrants. We can't feed you anymore. And I'm like, wow, this is super,
Oh yeah,
super relevant.
hey,
what
it's-
year was this?
the 90s.
And it's still
It's actually
relevant.
this is actually super dope because on the Statue of Liberty it says Lobo was here.
Yeah, it does. I saw that.
Fucking Lobo.
But he goes, "This is my country. For years, the Americommando and his Minutemen have protected the U.S. from foreign threats. The only to have overlooked the most insidious menace of all: the poor, tired, huddled masses camping on our shores, begging for citizenship."
And you know what the funniest thing is? Like, it's amazing how relevant that page is right now because of.
It's scary how relevant this whole book is.
Have you heard this new thing where someone in the Trump administration, there's a poem on the base of the Statue of Liberty called "The New Colossus," and one of the most famous line is, "Give me your poor, your huddled masses,
You're tired.
you're tired, you're weak, those who cannot stand on their own, the refuse on your shores," and it's like this whole thing. And then today, this guy in the Trump thing decided that he said the plaque says, "Give me your tired and your weak and your poor who can stand on their own." It's like not at all what it says, but it's funny just how relevant and like little. It's very like I'm not. I mean, I don't really remember the 1990s that much. I barely remember the last 6 years of them, because that's when I was born. But I don't know if that was a relevant thing back then, but it's still super relevant today.
Well, we'd have to ask the senior citizen in the room.
That's very
That's very wow. What's the question?
Was Uber racism / like xenophobia?
Not xenophobia. I'd say isolationism. Closing the borders, part of the 90s. Which were you, 91? 90? Oh, so you're the same year as my older sister, then, yeah. Yeah, I mean, at that point, like, you don't really pay attention to stuff like
No.
that.
Yeah.
You know, between the ages of...
I mean, I wasn't really paying
Oh, we-
attention until high school.
I was gonna say
Right.
most of us were forced at one point in our young childhood to recognize an international incident on several occasions, but not by our own choosing.
Right.
Because it
I
was
say sixth grade, yes.
I didn't like, yeah. Yeah,
First
September
grade.
11th was
Jesus.
September 11th was the first thing that like sticks out to me as like observing.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know if I like blacked it out of my mind, but like I more vividly remember reacting to the 1 year anniversary than I do the day itself.
And even then, it's like back then we didn't understand it.
We didn't get-
Mommy, why did that happen? Well, they were bad people.
We
You
also-
don't think of like why they the real reason. they
You
did it.
also don't know what really happened. You just know a couple planes flew into buildings and people died.
Yeah, that's
like-
all you know.
yeah.
And then another plane crashed outside of a shape, and you're like, I don't know. What
I
that shape
didn't
is.
learn about that shit until years later.
Yeah, I remember hearing.
Yeah,
about
I didn't-
that.
I only knew about
Like,
I only really cared about the New York one because I had some family that lived outside of New York City.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, Red Robin's first appearance in any DC
Oh,
book
yeah.
is this book.
I was gonna say because I almost texted when I was reading that. I was like, I'm almost positive that's a Robin.
Yeah, that's
But the lack of short shorts and tights is really making
This
it
is-
difficult for me to tell
this is
who it is.
an older version of Tim Drake, who was the Robin at the time. He later on would transition in the actual comic book line to become Red Robin, but because Dick Grayson, I don't think takes part in this book at all.
I think they name drop it.
they might name drop, which is a thing they do for a while.
Yeah, they say this like, oh, that's not what Dick said.
Yeah, which Superman and Dick Grayson are always super tight, but it is the first introduction of Red Robin. And then Superman shows up, kicks the guy's ass, and he's like, "Hey, we need to do better. We need to do better."
Then he builds a super gulag that looks like the Legion of Doom.
Yeah. But for a while, him and the Justice League go around. They save people. They recruit new members. Power Girl's boob window keeps getting bigger, which was a running joke at the time. But I can't believe they put it in this book.
There's a great gag at the end of the book involving Power Girl too.
And then you meet the Cabal of sorts. It is all the villains who have retired who get together to try to figure out this Superman issue because they're like, he's kind of going a bit too far sometimes. You have Lex Luthor, you have Catwoman, an old Riddler.
Who was dating Catwoman, right? Or he's there with her?
He's just because they're Batman villains, I think they put them together. You got Vandal Savage, I assume at one point. You have Ra's al Ghul's kid.
Talia?
No, the other one.
There's another one?
There's like, as far as I know, there's Talia. There's the
Oh,
one
no,
that
it's-
begins with an N. Nah.
Oh yeah,
She was
the
an
one,
Arrow.
the one that they needed to use because they couldn't use Talia.
Yeah.
No, this is his grandson, I believe.
Damien?
This is pre-Damien.
Yeah, I know.
The big guy is Lex Luthor,
Yeah.
and then they turn around and they go, "Luthor, what is your plan to fight Superman? You've never beaten him before." And he goes, "I have an ace up my sleeve. He has Billy Batson working for him."
Okay.
And in this universe, Billy Batson, Shazam one day, or Captain Marvel rather, one day said Shazam, went back to Billy Batson, and never came back.
But Billy Batson grows up to look like Shazam, so Luthor parades him around as Shazam.
Yeah.
Like, I always have him. And
And
then
one of the whole reasons that Shazam sides with Luthor is he's a kid.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he doesn't have these, like, he's told superheroes are these no good, kind of lousy, like, not, just like, fallible.
Yeah.
And that kind of, it leads to his mind being easily molded and manipulated.
the big thing that
by
changes
Lex
him
Luthor.
is Lex Luthor's mind control worms that he makes that he puts in his ear and uses as like a mind controlling parasite.
Hmm.
I love the supervillain bar though that Superman breaks up.
Mm.
You got like all these old retired supervillains. Like you got Lobo, I noticed is there. A couple other guys. The Creeper's there, who was like a very nice. Is that Rorschach in the background?
Maybe. Was it?
I've never noticed that before. I think that's Rorschach.
Yeah, that is without a doubt Rorschach. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Watchmen.
Who watches them?
Yeah, but now we can use that. We've mentioned Watchmen, so now we can put that in the description and get more people to watch.
There we go.
Hint. Next episode.
Possibly.
Okay, possibly.
Just,
Next
We
episode
never
works
know.
for me.
I mean, it would be cool for next episode, but like, who knows what's gonna happen?
It's also long as fuck.
I just read it. I do not feel like reading it again. But then, so they take over Green Lantern's floating city. Ooh, Wesley Dodds. He was Sandman at one point. Sorry. He was the guy with the gas gun.
Oh,
The
okay.
gas mask. They take over Green Lantern's floating spaceship and turn that into the new Hall of Justice.
Because the Hall of Justice is now owned by the UN?
No, that's just the UN building.
Oh, okay.
So Ross does a thing in here where he takes buildings and makes them look like other buildings that you recognize. The Super Gulag that Superman eventually built looks like the Legion of Doom headquarters.
But way more evil.
The UN building looks like the Hall of Justice, which actually just looks like the St. Louis,
Yeah, whatever that
City
is.
Hall. It's like the State House,
Yeah.
St. Louis. The Spanish Inquisition shows up.
Mm.
Thank you for that.
There's a hero that looks just like the Spanish Inquisition from that
Monty
old
Python.
Monty Python's skit.
Fucking John sends it to me at work. I wasn't expecting the Spanish Inquisition. I was like, what the fuck?
I mean, come on.
They go down to Atlantis where you meet Arthur Curry and Mira. They are old. They are white. They are fish folk. They
There's
don't want-
also a great line where they're like, "Oh, Arthur, the world needs you," and he's like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm the master of the oceans, aka 72% of this planet.
Yeah.
So don't tell me how much problems you guys have." And I was like, "Damn, that is such a like." I don't know. The world went flat for me on that. It's like, wow, Aquaman really does have to protect 78% of the planet.
And then they go back up to the hall and they find out Magog has come back and he's ruining everything. By ruining everything, he's just made himself known. You see him and he's trying to carry a building across irradiated Kansas because he's that strong. And the building collapses because he's like trying to carry a building.
Yeah, and the weight can't support from how he's holding it.
Yeah, he's got it by like the bottom, and so he like blows it up, and Superman shows up, and he's got the League with him, and he's like, Magog, what's going on? And Magog goes, this is all your fault, and he's like, what do you mean? And that's when Magog reveals the fact that like, I didn't want to fight you. He's like, I wanted you to show up and win, and like, keep your place as the world's greatest hero. I wasn't ready for it. I can't deal with this pressure. The world needs you.
And he also mentions like the 100 million ghosts
Yeah.
haunting him because of what he did with the atom exploding and ruining everything.
And then he attacks Superman, and Superman's like, what? And then Superman goes, we are at war, we need to end all these issues immediately. And everybody goes, maybe not the best idea. And Superman's like, no, that's, I don't know if you know this, I'm truth, justice, and the American way is war. So that's what we're going to do. And he goes to Apocalypse where he meets Orion, son of Darkseid, who is traded to Allfather, who...
Yeah. Anyways,
That is a distraction. Who is traded to Allfather to end the war between heaven and hell on a cosmic level in DC. And you see an older Orion who's starting to look like his father, who's inherited Apocalypse. And Superman goes, you know what, I should use some Apocalypse technology to make my prison. And Orion goes, or not. And he goes, no, but I am.
Good.
So they use mother boxes and stuff, and Big Barda shows up.
Mother boxes.
Ping, ping.
oh god, I'm remembering it all.
Release the Snyder Cut.
Oh god.
So then they set to work building the Super Gulag, and Batman sides with Luthor in the war for humanity versus gods. He sides with humanity.
But Batman also has like
Green
so
Arrow.
they kind of introduce like that. There's the renegade superheroes who are against Superman. There's Superman and his allies, and then they also throw in this wild card division. That's Batman, Green Arrow, Ted Kord as the Blue Beetle, a personal favorite of mine. And then
Yeah.
who else is with him? There's one other character
Green
on
Arrow?
this side. Not Green Arrow.
Are you talking about later on when they reveal
No,
themselves?
there's someone else with them. I can't remember who it is.
Is it when they meet up with Luthor?
It's when Superman meets Bruce in a cave and threads him. Because he's like, I control all these Batbots from my secret lair. I look like Darth Vader.
Yeah. Oh, well, Superman and Batman meet up a couple of times and are vaguely threatening to one another.
I know there's one.
Oh, was it
scene
Zatanna?
Maybe it's somebody. I don't know
Justice
who it
League
is.
Dark fam.
I think it's her dad. Zatanna.
But it's like it's. Yeah, I don't remember.
There's a couple of times
It's
with-
Ted Kord.
It's a lot of human, semi-street level characters.
Because they even call them like street warrior level
Yeah.
heroes or something.
But so you see just like this advancement of the tension and like the building pressure. The superheroes are fighting one another. The Justice League's going around to capture these different villains. You see the cosmic level. It's almost like an Infinity Gauntlet, where like Eternity and Galactus and everybody show up. You get the last of the Guardians. You have the Wizard Shazam. You get Allfather. You get Deadman. You have Phantom Stranger. They all show up. All these cosmic level villain characters who are like, we need to do something, but we can't intervene. Yeah. And then Deadman shows up and sees McCree watching, and he's like, yo, dude, you have to do something.
That's the red skeleton guy, right?
Boston Brand.
Yeah.
A.K.A. Deadman. And in this one, he's a skeleton. Usually he's just a spooky ghost man.
Yeah, I was like, who's this guy? He's like, because like, Brand just turns as a skeleton. He's like, oh, you can see me? Cool. Hey, what's up? Yeah. I'm a ghost.
I'm Deadman.
Yeah.
Because which is a cool thing, which is kind of alludes to another scene that happens later on. Like, weird ethereal characters can see McCree.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they don't notice the Spectre is just chilling. Like, I don't know if the Spectre decided to go to that meeting of, like, omniscient, like, important characters. And he's like, I'm going to bring my human to work today. And, like, Phantom Stranger brought Deadman with him. Like,
yeah, Phantom Stranger was used in a similar way in the Swamp Thing show.
Yeah, Phantom Stranger's a really cool character.
Yeah, I really like him.
And
he had just a few small appearances there, and I really dug him.
In New 52, he's apparently Judas.
Huh.
Of biblical fame. Or infamy.
Huh.
So it comes down to this, like, Superman and Wonder Woman are cracking down on
everybody.
And they mention specifically that, like, while people are joining them, the people not joining them and going to prison are, like, exponentially higher.
Yeah.
So the gulag is, like,
over
filling
capacity.
up.
And they're doing this thing where, like, they're trying to teach all the inmates how to be better people, how they should act,
Yeah.
and, like, all this stuff. And, like, it's not doing them any favors. Like, they've built these giant statues of Superman posing, and he's like, remember to help old ladies across the street. Eats 3 square meals a day. Like,
And, like, the inmates are throwing stuff at him.
Yeah.
It's a hologram, so they're just getting more frustrated.
and then one of the greatest scenes in the entire book is when, so, like, they're trying to figure out what to do with, oh shit, I almost missed this scene. They're trying to figure out what to do with the, wait, what goes on here? They were using Martian Manhunter for something at one point. They're using him to, like, control people.
Yeah, with his mind.
Yeah.
Powers.
So everybody's getting together to talk about their plans of what's going to happen. You've got the 2 basic factions at this point: Lex Luthor and the Hope for Humanity, Superman and the total domination of Earth by the Super Society. And then you get to see the Super Society and Norm McCrae standing there with the Spectre. And this is where I think you were going earlier with the Flash.
The Flash, yeah. The
The
Flash
Flash-
somehow sees into this ethereal plane and pulls McCoy out, or McCrae out.
Because he's not moving, the Flash is standing there vibrating at such a speed. He exists on every plane of reality, and he just happens to see McCrae out of the corner of his eye and pulls him into the reality where everybody can see him.
And I was like, that's crazy.
And then Superman is standing over him, and all he can do is spout the Book of Revelations. And at that moment in time, something else occurs, and all the Justice League has to leave.
Well, I mean, they get distracted, and then that's the moment where
Spectre pulls him back.
Spectre pulls him back into the ethereal realm.
And they're like, what happened to that old man?
Where'd that guy go?
Doesn't matter. Shit's going down. What shit's going down? You'll find out in a second. Because then you go over to the Hope for Humanity, where things are getting tense in Lex Luthor's corner, and then all of a sudden, Batman punches Shazam in the face. And everybody's like, this old man is done for. And then Shazam collapses. And Bruce Wayne, this geriatric man in a Darth Vader costume, standing over him goes, hello, Billy. And Green Arrow has the greatest reaction. He goes, he's not? You're kidding me. All this time we've been living in mortal fear of Billy Batson.
Because, yeah, that's what they've been afraid of. is
It's
that
just this big dude. Like,
he looks just like Shazam.
he looks just like Shazam.
Yeah.
But, like, it's just a guy.
I mean, if it had been Zach Levi,
Yeah.
I'd be scared either way.
Yeah. Yo, he was Chuck. I don't know if you know this. But,
Basically, Batman that was never really on board with Lex Luthor. He was just trying to figure out what Lex's angle was. Because he's Batman. He's
Yeah.
the world's greatest detective.
and then, Batman gets Luthor's, like, resources to help him build more Batbots. and then Ted Kord hacked them all, and now he's got them all under his control. But then Billy runs into the room where Luthor was like breeding his mind control worms, and he does it, and Batman's like, "Don't do it." He says Shazam and turns into Shazam for the first time in years.
Yeah.
And he just takes off because he's still half mind controlled from Superman. So he fucking gets up right the fuck out of there.
And they mentioned Shazam pretty much is keeping Superman in line
Yeah.
because of Shazam being magic
Right.
and that being Superman's weakness.
He's essentially Superman is the sci-fi Ubermensch.
Mm.
Shazam is the magical Ubermensch. He has all the same powers for the most part, but so Superman takes off, goes into the Batcave through the bottom, which means he burrowed through the earth to get there.
Yeah, I noticed that. He like crashes through a bunch of stuff. And
He goes
comes
through a
out of the
satellite.
ground.
I'm assuming. Oh, he goes through China or Japan. He goes into Asia and comes out in America.
Does he?
Pagoda side.
Oh, that's kind of defeats the purpose. But yeah, that makes sense.
The only cooler time I've seen that is when Galactus punches Thor through the planet and Thor comes back.
But isn't like I'm pretty sure that the opposite.
It doesn't work. If you go through New York, you come out in the ocean.
Yeah, it's like the Indian Ocean is
Yeah.
pretty much the opposite side for most of the United States.
Um,
But it's
so, just at this point, Amanda's still reading. What point are you at?
show
Oh,
them
she's
at the
almost there.
She's almost at the end.
Yeah.
Oof,
Oof.
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 Are we oofing?
Oh, we're oofing. We're oofing and uffing. We're huffing and puffing and blowing this house down.
Is that the Spider-Man comic book? Say J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
JJ and his son are co-writing a Spider-Man miniseries.
That's pretty cool.
And Sarah Pacelli used to draw parts of Ultimate Spider-Man. She's a very good artist.
That's pretty cool.
That you get those for free sometimes if your comic book vendor's cool enough. I got that at the guy down the street at my usual shop.
Yeah.
He throws one of those in every time I go if he's got them. That's got a bunch of cool. It's just previews for everything and like solicitations. I grab them every once in a while. You find out new books coming out, but we also live at a time where like Marvel posts about it on their Facebook page anyways, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You went over September.
The last 2 weeks of comic books though for me, super weak. So I got 2 books the other day. Look at my pull list: Red Sonja and Red Sonja the Betty Veronica.
Oh,
Weird.
It is, but it kind of works. A vampire escapes their universe into the Riverdale universe, not the TV show, the Archie Comics universe, and ends up like biting people. And then Red Sonja and Vampirella have to come through and like fight this evil thing. And like Sonja joins the football team because she's practically a dude. Like, but so there's the riot at the prison, and then it explodes, and all the villains that have been captured for weeks to months at a time, who are so infuriated with all this bullshit, get out. And then you get Shazam shows up to fight Superman,
Oh,
leading to the Chapter 4 cover, which is Superman standing in a cloud of smoke. Fantastically done by Alex Ross. By the way, this whole book is painted.
yeah. Oh, it's painted.
This is painted.
yeah, that's what Alex Ross does.
Yeah.
Oh my
Alex
God.
Ross.
It's like reading a Norman Rockwell painting.
Exactly.
Take a look at in this stack here. You guys keep talking while I dig it out, but
The art is like I'll give it credit for that. Like with Marvel Knights, I didn't like the book.
Marvels.
The art, Marvels. Sorry,
Knights is
Marvels. I read through it and it's all gorgeous. I love it. The art is so well done.
What book are you looking for?
the here we go. I got. He's done the covers for the Immortal Hulk series too, and it's fantastic. Like all 3 of these covers are him, and it's he's
are
done
they?
every individual issue.
Oh, wow, I don't like that Hulk. It's very scary. Man.
It's
supposed
a
to-
very scary
It's,
Hulk.
it's a horror series.
Oh, it's all horror Hulk.
It's a horror.
horror.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The front cover doesn't do it justice because they just pick like the catchiest
Yeah.
covers. But if you flip through and look at them, they're all fantastic.
He doesn't do the interior art, but he's done every cover for the series.
Except a lot of the variants are kind of weird, especially after you see his covers. The back couple pages usually have a bunch of like the untouched covers.
Yeah.
So then you get like the biblical nature John was talking about, which is like the battle of like for the fate of mankind, the battle between heaven and hell. Shazam versus Superman. All these characters they made up for this book versus all the other characters they made up for this book.
Some other there's one character called Cathedral, and he just looks like a church. He looks like
Yeah.
a walking church, and Wonder Woman punches him so hard she cracks his costume in half because it's all wood.
So, this book doesn't have it. The book Amanda has in the back has a whole bunch of those extra materials for all the different characters that Ross created. Like, the back third of it is just dossiers and stuff. But, so you get this battle, and throughout the entire, like, portion of it, you have McCrae asking the Spectre, what do I do? What should I do? How do we stop this? And it comes down to the point where the Spectre looks at McCrae and goes, you have to decide who lives and who dies. Because the UN launches 3 nukes at the superheroes using everybody's favorite team, the Blackhawks, as the fighter pilots.
Gotcha.
The World War II fighter pilots, who Steven Spielberg is apparently making a movie about.
I'm down. But so they mentioned that like if the so the whole thing with the nukes and that Norman has to decide is
If the nukes land, all
Yeah.
the superheroes die.
because the Spectre's like this is where you choose.
Yeah.
If the nukes land, the superheroes are done. If the nukes don't land, then
The rest of humanity gets consumed in this fight.
yeah, like the fight between all the superheroes just consumes the Earth, kills all the humans, and leaves just the pretty much meta-human superheroes. And he has to choose. Why him? Who knows?
And then they appear. The third faction. The final team. Batman in his Bat-mech armor with, like, all these street-level heroes.
Except for Ted Cord.
Ted Cord. Looks like the Shadow. A couple of ninjas from, like, the League of Assassins. Black Cat. Wildcat. Black Canary, who's like half cyborg, and like there are super characters. He's got Creeper, Green Arrow, like rappelling off of somebody. Like somebody
Somehow.
flew, and like Green Arrow was riding on a rope in like a straight up Errol Flynn Robin Hood costume. And then they just show up and they start fighting both sides. And because it's Batman, they're all winning. And then you see Wonder Woman kill somebody, and
She kills some German hero.
yeah.
Or, well, villain
Vague.
hero. Von Bolte or something?
Yeah. Von Bach.
Von Bach.
And,
I actually understood some of his lines. I saw him say dead at one point.
yeah, he says "ach" in this one, which is the sound of dying.
That's German for ow.
Yeah. So then Batman and Superman start fighting. Batman and Wonder Woman, start fighting. They take it up into the sky, and he's calling her out.
By
He's
the
like,
way, Wonder Woman can fly?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
she always can fly.
I had no clue.
It's weird because for a while they had like the invisible jet thing,
Yeah.
and then sometimes she can fly, but she still uses the invisible jet.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. Like, this is weird.
But yeah, after a while they were just like, you know what? She can fly.
She's also dressed like Hawk, for whatever
Yeah.
reason. She's got like an eagle helmet and gold wings. And
Well, because she's supposed to like represent the country that she's ambassador to.
Gotcha.
So she really took on the America. She killed U.S. Commando guy.
yeah,
and, like, took his costume.
armor.
Yeah.
Right, duh. Silly me. Also, her and Superman are kind of falling in love in this book, but not really.
They're
It's
fooling around.
weird.
There's one scene where they kiss when they don't agree with each other, and they call it marble scraping on steel, which is like very.
That's how Norman describes it. He's like, it's not like a kiss of passion. It's
Yeah.
like a farewell. And
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
weird.
because Superman's like, we need to do this without killing anybody, and Wonder Woman goes,
Nah.
"Are you an idiot? Like nobody's gonna die in this fight with people that have superpowers." And then she kills somebody, and it's kind of a shock to her. But Batman's like, "You're overcompensating. You're trying to get back to Themyscira, and you're gonna do anything possible." They're fighting. They go above the clouds. Like everybody's fighting in this darkness. These two get up into the light of day, and they see the 3 nukes, and they're like, "Well, damn.
Neat.
Yeah, this is not going to end well. We should just hang out up here." You get Superman versus Shazam some more. You get all these guys fighting.
Not even a fair fight.
What, Superman versus Shazam?
Oh, no, not at all.
Shazam does one of the coolest moves, and he does it in Justice League Unlimited too.
Oh?
It's when he's fighting Superman, and he keeps doing the Shazam. And he calls down the lightning, and he hits Superman with it. And he keeps doing it over and over again, and because it's magic lightning, it hurts Superman, and he just keeps going, Shazam, Shazam, Shazam.
And he's doing it like groups of people around him are getting
Yeah.
zapped too.
But the other thing is, it's the 7 bolts of lightning in Revelations, or the 7 trumpets in Revelations. It's the falling of the wall of Jerusalem or Jericho or whatever. I haven't read too much of the Bible. I just know there's references. So Wonder Woman goes and like cuts one of the planes down. It's like a semi-plane, semi-drone,
Yeah.
and it stops the bomb. And Batman has like laser guns on his wings.
Batman's suit in this movie, like, there's one scene where someone shoots Batman with a flamethrower, and he looks so cool.
Yeah.
Because he has like this cool like knight-like face mask.
But then
The third plane drops the bomb.
the third plane drops the bomb, and Superman grabs Billy, and he Shazams him, but he gets hit by the lightning, and Superman pushes him in the way of it, turning him back into Billy, and then clamps his mouth closed so he can't say it again.
Say Shazam, yeah.
And then
Superman explains to him what's happening.
Yeah,
And
and-
Superman sees the
he hears the bomb at first, and then he
Yeah.
looks up and sees it, and then that's when the Spectre gives McCree the ultimatum: who lives, who dies, and then Billy and McCrae at the same time kind of come to the same conclusion: nobody should die. Like, we need.
McCrae even says like, "Oh, you're supposed to be like this word of God, the
Yeah.
word of good, and then here you are like asking me who has to die."
Yeah. Superhumans or mankind, one will pay the ultimate price. It is not for me to make. I am not a god. And then McCrae says that, and Superman says to Shazam, in that decision, I am not a man. He's like, I am above humanity. I can't decide who lives and who dies. And Shazam is the linchpin because he goes, more than anyone who ever existed, you know what it's like to live in both worlds. Only you can weigh their worth equally. Fight the brainwashing, Billy. You can let me go. Or you can, with a word, you can stop me. Do you understand the choice that can be made by you alone?
It's a really cool because like he gives it to probably the person who's most on that fine line between
Yeah.
God and
Man.
human, despite the fact that he's spent the last how many years
30 years in brain control.
Under the control of the worm.
So then, Superman takes off to go stop the bomb. Billy Shazams, chases after him, throws Superman out of the way, and Superman grabs his cape to try to stop him. The cape tears free. Superman like half falls back to Earth. Shazam flies into the atomic bomb, catches it, and
Yells Shazam
just
3 times.
starts shouting Shazam, and detonates the bomb
Also,
in the
I
atmosphere.
know what you're thinking. Why didn't Superman shoot the nuke with his laser beams? They show that, and it's like coded, so the beams just ricochet
Yeah.
off harmlessly.
And also, so you get this dope page, like single page splash of just an atomic cloud. And then it's McCrae sitting there in the smoke and Superman screaming. And there's just a field of dead bodies. He gets up and takes off. And McCrae goes, I didn't decide what happened. And the Spectre goes, there's enough left. Enough left on both sides to have the same issues. But people made it. And then the Spectre's like, my job's done. I'm going to leave you here in this war zone.
Yeah.
Have fun. And McCrae goes, nah, I did your work. You owe me a favor.
Yeah.
Superman goes to the UN and goes to collapse the building in on everybody. McCrae looks at the Spectre. He has him bring him to where Superman goes. He goes, you let him see me. And then he shouts at him and goes, Clark, don't. He calls him Clark for the first time since Wonder Woman does at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
He talks him down, buys enough time for the other superheroes to arrive, and then for them to find out that there's still supervillains left, and they decide that they have to become one with humanity. They have separated themselves for too long. They need to join in with society and help reform it. They need to be better people. And they take Shazam's cape and tie it to the UN flag. Now there's all these countries of the world and the superheroes. You get this happy ending. Clark heals up. Batman stops being a dick, kind of.
That's usually what happens with Batman.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm going to be a dick. And then he's like, I'm done.
Wonder Woman goes.
Pick up board.
Wonder Woman goes back to Themyscira. Hal Jordan becomes the UN ambassador. Now he no longer lives alone. He helps to bring people together. Superman turns his old farm in Kansas into a mass
monument.
cemetery. Not a cemetery in mass. You can visit those. The Freedom Trail has several. Wonder Woman shows up, brings him a gift. It's a pair of glasses. to help him see better, restoring the Clark Kent identity, letting him fall back into society. They kiss. There's no creepy part of this kiss. And then he grabs the world's biggest plow and starts plowing the land of Brill the Farm again. McCrae sees the Spectre. The Spectre reveals himself. I believe it's Jim Carrigan still. He wakes up in a church, and then he sees all of this happen. All of this God shit. All this man shit. And he goes back and he's like, you know what? I still believe in religion.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is cool. But
Yeah.
he's like, I'm going to go back to preaching the right way. Maybe this won't happen again.
but so there's a funny bit at the end of the book where
1 year later.
1 year later,
Oh, we forgot to mention, there's a place called Planet Krypton.
and it's just like
It's a themed restaurant.
Yeah, it's a superhero themed restaurant where all the people are dressed up as the heroes.
And
I
everything
wanna visit this place.
I do
Yes.
too.
and
Because
every
all the menu items are puns.
are based off of which
Which
Um,
goes back to my favorite. I mentioned a joke about Power Girl. There's a great joke in there where they're talking about stuff on the menu, and someone goes, "What's in the Power Girl sandwich?" And the waiter says, "100% breast meat," which goes back to her little like boob window as part of the costume. I laughed for like a
So,
minute and a half.
she had a boob window, and the artist, for over a while, the joke was every time they drew her chest a little bigger just to see how far they could get. And no one was paying attention in editorial until they were massive. And then they just never shrank them back down. At one point, they put like something over the boob window, but ever since, she's just been this like, she has been like the buxom icon for superhero women everywhere.
Yeah, and it's such a funny that joke about 100% breast meat. Oh my god, it's hilarious.
So Clark, Diana, and Bruce all meet up at the restaurant, and they go out. They get their food. Tom, you love this. They get served by by Aquaman in
My
the
boy.
orange suit.
My boy. Not actually Arthur Curry,
No.
but someone pretending to be Aquaman. Also, what does Superman order? Superman orders.
I have it right over here. Today's sandwich is the Power Girl special. The cut breast. I also recommend Dial H for hoagie, not Dial H for hero. Diana has the giant turtle soup. Superman goes, "Do you serve anything like beef bourguignon?" And she goes, "There's the Starro casserole."
Yeah, that's what it is. And then Batman orders a steak.
Well done.
And what does the waiter say?
Man of beef.
There's several. We have the man of beef.
And he just goes, "Steak."
a steak.
Well
Well
done.
done. And he gets his steak and it's rare. And Superman zaps it to cook it with his heat vision.
But Diana's drinking out of a flash glass. Batman is drinking out of a Green Lantern mug.
That's what he says. He orders coffee and he's just like, keep them coming. And I was like, I am Batman in this case.
But
I
Superman's
relate.
drinking out of a Shazam glass.
He ordered milk.
Yeah.
Of course he did.
Sounds like my brother.
Of course Superman did.
Oh yeah, because he tilts the glasses down and does this.
Yeah, he zaps his
And so Diana and Clark are like, well, we have something to announce, and Batman goes, "You're pregnant," and they look at him stunned, and they're like, "How did you?" And he goes,
kind of a dick move, by the way, on
Yeah.
Batman's part.
He goes, it's me. What did you want? You guys are kind of obvious with all this.
I just got told that.
Yeah. And then so they drop another bomb on him. They want him to be the Godfather. And he's like, "Oh man." And then they go and they're leaving and they pass by two gentlemen at the bar. And one of them goes, "Spinach and cottage cheese? That's the Spectre platter?" And it's the Spectre sitting there. And Norman McCrae sitting next to him and goes, "Look at it this way. It's flattering to be remembered somehow." There's no Norman McCrae on the menu. And then Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman look at them and go, "Do you guys know them?" And they're like, "No." Batman's like, "All right, cool."
The funny thing is how Batman deduces that Diana's pregnant. He's just like, "Oh well, you put on a couple pounds or two and your hair is starting to gray." It's just like, dude,
For your normally perfect looks, you're starting to kind of. And he's like, "You also ordered water?"
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Superman got milk.
That's Superman. One of them's like from ancient Greece.
Yeah, that's true. All they drinking wine.
Which is all it smells like behind our store.
Wine?
No, ancient Greece.
We have a grease trap behind our store now.
for the
And
fucking
it has,
department.
it has ruined my brake spot.
It's ruined everything.
It just stinks.
Dude,
Yeah.
5 o'clock in the morning is too early to open a door and go.
Think about how bad that was when I worked in New York System.
Yeah, but like,
Big, like,
how often do they empty your grease trap though?
not often enough.
Restaurants don't get it that often. They should have bigger tanks.
I guess. It's bad.
So, Kingdom Come was a warning for the increasing violence in comic books.
Yeah.
No one ever fixed that, but we still got a damn good book out of it. What were your, and by your, I mean Amanda, who's finishing it as we end this podcast, John, who read it today, and not Tom, who hasn't read it yet, thoughts and opinions on this book beyond what we've already expressed?
Tom, you need to read it. That's all I'm gonna say. I know you
I-
didn't have the chance.
But now hearing the way you guys are talking about it, it's so down my alley.
It's
It's
so-
not even funny.
I didn't think I was gonna like this. I told Fred I had to read the book today. I picked it up and I was like, and then I just sat down and I did like half the book. I did some cleaning and I went through the second half and I was like, this was so good.
Yeah, like the way you guys are talking about it, it is so like my speed.
I don't know if you want to look through the back of this one. It's got the extra stuff in it. So, now would
Highly
be,
recommended. My most recommended DC book aside from White Knight so far.
I'd like to hear from the person who has literally said nothing this podcast.
Me.
I'm not a fan.
Oh, did?
This was fine when you guys were like explaining it to me, but I'm just not a fan. I don't like CC comics.
Wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to lean more towards Marvel just because it's kind of what got me into it. Or, well, more into it, but I don't know. I still have a place in my heart for some of the DC heroes. Like, I really like Batman, as overrated as he is. I really enjoy, like, Blue Beetle, aka Iron Man in Infinity War and Endgame. The Flash, I've always really liked. But,
Which Flash is it in this? Is it Barry or Wally?
it's,
Wally.
is it Wally?
I believe so.
It's got, like, the bucket helmet with the wings on it.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
that's a callback to Jake Garrick.
Yeah,
But
he looks like Jay Garrick. But for someone who doesn't like Superman, very good Superman-centric
this
story.
is my favorite Superman book. There's another book I have picked up that after I read it, I think you guys might enjoy it. It's called Superman for All Seasons. It's
I've heard great things about
It's
that.
by the guy. It's by Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale, the guys who did Long Halloween, guys who did Spider-Man Blue.
There's another Superman book I've been wanting to read, and I'm trying to remember what it is.
I feel like I'm just not attached enough to the
DC heroes. I feel it. Like, I've never really liked Superman. I always thought he was just too bad. Wonder Woman, I don't know. DC heroes in general, like, aside from Batman and, like, The Flash, I like the heroes of the Justice League, but it's like, there's not enough pull like the Avengers to me.
I think it's All Star Superman
Yeah,
that I wanted to read.
that one's real good too. This is one of my favorites. This is what got me to love Alex Ross's art. I got this for Christmas when I was in high school, and then proceeded. I had the paperback copy that has this cover with them standing over the reflecting pool, and on the bottom half is all like the counterparts to the characters. I got the paperback version. I lent it to my friend. I haven't talked to him since we graduated. He has all my books. I have now given away every book he gave me. Amanda got both volumes of Hawkeye. Tom just got the George R.R. Martin stuff. But this is one of the books I lent him. I always wanted to get it back, but I was always like, I've already read it. I can buy other comics instead that like I haven't read yet. And then they announced they're doing the 20th anniversary edition. I Amazoned it. I got it the day it came out, and I sat and read it. And then I went out and I got shareable copies. That way I can keep this bad boy at home and give it to people. Because much like Punk Raji's, it's one of those books I will throw at people and be like, here, try it, give it a chance. This is definitely a better representation of Alex Ross's art, in my opinion. And it's definitely, like, to have it be such a heavy story and, like, very thematic with, like, the religious overtones, to have somebody paint it and make it all one giant, like, manuscript.
Mwah.
Yeah, like, seals the deal. Like, I can't think of another artist that could do this book with this much weight.
In some panels, it is a little hard to tell what's
Yeah.
going on. The shapes tend to blend together, but I feel like that's done on purpose.
I think the reason it's done so well is because with him painting in his art style, it's photorealistic.
Yeah.
So you can see the grief, you can see the anger,
The faces are really like,
you could see the humanity in the characters. Like if this was done by anybody else, like even like David Finch, the only guy that I could say could do this might be Assad Ribic because he does a very similar painting art style. But if you were to give it to a more traditional cartoony-esque or more loosely photorealistic artist, I think you would lose a lot of the severity of the story and like a lot of the emotion that it takes and a lot of just like these cool scenes like Superman in the dust, this field of skeletons, all this stuff. Like the last third of the book is definitely my favorite, but now going back, having read more comics, like I read this when I was first getting into it, I had no basis for a lot of the beginning. Now I do, so it helps with getting to the end point and like understanding the history that goes into this actual comic. Also, the fact that there's this dope sketch in the back of the book.
of Hawkman.
No, Green Lantern.
Oh, I love how he uses a green claymore. Like, so cool. So goofy, but cool.
But like he uses he carries around a claymore and it shoots like energy beams. But that wasn't Barda. That was her daughter. Okay. And like in the back of the book, you see all the characters that he helped create for the series, and he gave a bunch of them backstories,
Yeah.
and they're all like based.
They're all fairly unique looking.
They're fairly unique looking.
Not interesting, so to speak, but unique.
But they're also, a lot of them have like basis in
Like Joker's daughter. One of the characters is Joker's daughter too.
but they're all based off of like another hero.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of them like Spy Smasher 2. He's an updated, like a lot of them are updated versions of old characters that they brought back. Spy Smasher is a Fawcett comic character, like Shazam, which is why he lives in Fawcett City. Now, the Batman of Many Nations, you have the Dragon, the Samurai, and the Cossack. Interesting. Oh, it does say who he is in this. The Flash is Wally West. Okay.
Oh, it is West. Okay.
Because they're listed under the Titans. Because you have all the Teen Titans grown up in this book. Like Aquaman 2. But, yeah, so the villains that Luthor... The Mankind Liberation Front is Luthor, Enigma, King, the head of the Royal Flush Gang, Cobra, Vandal Savage, Selena Kyle, and even Al Sarfash, who is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. And I was wrong. He does not marry Mera. Arthur marries Dolphin,
Who's that?
his girlfriend from the 90s.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, she is awful. She was there when he got his hook hand.
Now the Hook Hand arc was good though, right? Or no?
Nobody reads Aquaman.
I read Aquaman. My fish boy.
After the movie.
Yeah.
I read it before the movie. Before they ruined the trench.
The Trench were so good.
Oh, they weren't. It was so much better in the book. Because in the book, it's like, wow, here. It's
In
like,
the book, it's a story.
yeah, in the book, it's a story. It's not just, he's in the middle of the ocean, these things attack the boat, and he has to dive and go to the
You know
Nope.
what the trench is?
Nope.
The trench is a cool scene in
Love
the
the
trailer.
Trench.
Yeah, it was trailer bait.
Yeah,
Nope. Nope. I stand by
They were-
the Trench.
they were fishing.
I stand by it.
Oh, God, it was such a weird scene. Just like, they're just there.
Nah, they got set up earlier.
We could end this
I stand
episode
by
and just
it.
do a chewing the fat on why Aquaman was bad.
Nope. Not recording it.
End it. Do it. End this.
Nope.
I'm just gonna get
Fred, send us out.
Shazam.
Shazam!
I'm chewing an Oreo, I apologize.
So be sure to like, subscribe, usually YouTube, everyone. At this point, like, we should have a robotic voice. Like, that should be an option on YouTube where you can just insert
Hey,
the like,
follow us
subscribe,
on
like, Comics B and C on
Fancy.
Bancy. B and C. Is that on Instagram?
On Instagram.
Instagram, Twitter is
At Brew Comics.
At Brew Comics.
I can remember that
BREW.
because every day I get notifications because I don't actually use the account that often. It tells me what everybody I follow is posting, and I'm like, I don't care. I can see it on my main account too.
So yeah,
And subscribe to us right here on YouTube.
That would help.
we'll probably do the Watchmen next, unless something else comes up. Not much in the way of movies for us
It
to
might
do.
be worth doing a Joker podcast when that
Oh,
drops.
yeah. We'll find
This week, the Golden Age Joker omnibus comes out. It's $100.
We'll find something Joker related to do, I guess.
Killing Joke. No.
No? Okay, I thought we did.
We could do the book, the movie.
The movie's terrible.
We're not doing the movie.
Terrible.
Is that?
That's that.
That should be that.